Welcome, Kaizeners, again to the podcast episode. As you remember from the last episode, I had with me Riza Cox, and with the same kind of background here in Finland. We are still in Finland, but I have another guest with me that I think I am very interested to talking because I feel that there's a lot of things that he could explain, a lot of interesting stories and experiences. Is a person that has been linked with the Kaizen methodology from almost the origins, probably more than 30 years ago. And it's an honor for me to have this moment to talk to him, to our CEO of Kaizen Institute Global, António Costa. How are you, Antonio? Welcome.
Hello, Alish. And I'm fine, thank you.
As you know, as I mentioned, we are here in Finland, having a meeting, a global business meeting with the different business unit leaders. What are we exactly doing here so that our audience understands?
Well, first of all, it's an amazing opportunity to meet all the people from all our business units. So it is a moment in time that we gather all together, all the local offices, local views. And we take this time to reflect in the achievements of the last year, because in Kaizen we like to celebrate the success, but at the same time we use the time to plan for the future. We like to celebrate, but we are very fast celebrating, and we took more time to plan. So we like to plan and plan carefully. So this week we speak about the most important breakthroughs of the organization. At the same time, we take the opportunity to level, because we have different business units in size, multiple locations, in different regions, different continents, and we are only one company. So it's very important to be sure that the standards that we produce are acquired by everyone, to be implemented, to be delivered to the customers in the same way, either it is here in Finland or where we were last year in Nairobi, in Kenya, or in any given country.
To use the opportunity to also to level a little bit the standards between the different BUs that we have around the globe.
Speaking a little bit about the agenda. So we started looking for the results because we are driven also by results. We start celebrating also the people and the achievements of the last year, 2023. And then we go on to a program mainly focusing internal training, capabilities training, methodology training. Today, most of the group is at a customer doing a Kaizen event, not only to our people, but also with people from the customer present. And in the rest of the week, we like I said, we choose the most important breakthroughs for the next cycle, and the next cycle is 2024-2025, and we together we work with these breakthroughs, doing a kind of cascade down exercise, because we think in this type of breakthroughs at a global level, but then we implement it at a local level. So we go from a global vision to a regional vision to a country vision. So this is how we do it. And in the end of the week, we keep some time for ourselves to celebrate the major achievements, and we end up with a ceremony that we call the internal awards, where we recognize individuals, also business units, and also customer achievements, and we are doing this since the last 21 years. It's very important for us to recognize the people and to celebrate with the people, and it's an opportunity for me. I'm not so many times with you. I remember we started together in Spain so many years ago. Now we are in Poland, and this is an opportunity to understand how life is going, how Kaizen life is going, and it's very profitable. At the same time, we invite our families. So because this is not only about what we do professionally, because our families are our support. So it's very important to take these moments also with our support close to us, to also to celebrate and to better understand what we do.
I also remember we call it the Kaizen family,
Yes.
right? With all the members that support
Yes,
us on
yes.
a daily basis,
Yes. We have,
all around the world.
we have people since 1 year old. So we
Yeah.
have some
They
colleagues
have grown with us.
with children with 1 year old, and we have some not children anymore,
On the
but
way.
with the 20s, and I guess some of them probably they would like to have a career in Kaizen Institute in their own countries, of course, and probably even at a global level, moving from one country to the other or one continent to the other. So this is really an important week.
So let me come back to it after, because I want to talk a bit about the cultures and also how the methodology in different cultures has an impact as well, and how we are adjusting our way of doing depending on the region and on the country itself. But first of all, Antonio, I want to ask you, who is António Costa? As we started about the GBM, the Global Business Meeting, but let me introduce our viewers to who is António Costa.
Well, maybe probably that's the most difficult question that you will ask to me in this videocast series. Well, I'm a Portuguese born person. I'm an only son, so I don't have brothers. Although I have a big family. Since my early age, one of my best skills was to communicate, to get acquainted, to play with other kids, with neighbors. So the presence of a community, of a group of people, it was always important in my life. I studied engineering, industrial and management engineering, and since the early days in university, I get in contact with the Kaizen concept of or Kaizen methodology as we used to learn in the discipline of quality. So within industrial and management engineering, we had a subject called quality, and within quality, I was taught about Kaizen and mystery. So it was my first contact.
Which year was that, more or less?
This was in 1995.
Okay.
And I never thought that I would ever met Mr. Imai, because we were studying at the time the influence of the quality and the total quality in Japan in the 50s, because Japan did a total transformation coming from a bankruptcy after the war. The war was devastated for the Japanese people, the Japanese society, and the Japanese economy. At that time, in the 50s and even in the 60s, if you said made in Japan, it would sense cheap products, fakes, copies, and all of a sudden, in a little bit more than 1 decade, Japan became to be a leader under the top 10 of the biggest economies, a technological leader, and transforming completely the industry and the economical tissue in Japan. And the total quality in the 60s and the beginning of the 70s play a very important role. And in the university, we were being taught about people like Edward Deming, Uren, and also Masaki Mai and Kaizen. So it was my first contact, but I never imagined that one day I would be seated in here, or even playing the role that I play today, being the CEO of the Kaizen Institute global group of companies. So this was my first contact. So I'm an engineering guy, so I like to understand how the things work. I like to disassemble and assemble back since I was a little child. When I got a small car, as an example, my father used to be mad with me because the first thing that I used to do was to try to disassemble it, and he thought that I was damaging it. No, but I needed to understand how to assemble it back to understand how it works, and then of course playing with that. I got married. I have 2 sons, a daughter and a son. I loved sports all my life, although I didn't practice so much because of other reasons, but I'm a football fan. I think football is one of the only subjects that sometimes turns me into a different person, so I cannot discuss football, my club, not national squads or
Porto, I guess.
Porto, yes, or FC Porto. I like animals, so I have 2 dogs. I like to play golf. I love to travel. That's why my professional life
Fits very well.
with my personal life. I like to read. I like to learn, and above all, I like to support people, to help people, to solve problems with people, and most likely in a team. This was something that I think it is from my own DNA to be together with others, understanding the problems, finding the root cause of the problems, and bringing solutions for those.
Do you think like the Kaizen methodology, or when you were introduced, also changed your way of looking at the world and also at other people?
Well, initially it was a great discovery because, well, at that time, Japan was top of technology. So at that time, I remember being young and starting to have a Walkman from Sony, so the technology on the TVs, the watches. So Japan means everything about technology on that time, but I didn't know quite well the economical history, and also speaking about cars, being a European, I was not that familiarized with the quality and the resilience of a car like the Toyotas. So having that first contact and understanding the methodology, understanding the transformative power of the methodology within a company like Toyota, within a country like Japan, taking in consideration the origin or the starting point of the Japanese economy until what it is today, I was absolutely fascinated. And some years later, I wanted to discover a little bit more. And when I was graduating, at that time, I was looking to big multinational companies because, Portugal is a small country, and always the influence of big companies like Bosch or like Nestle or others, Procter and Gamble. It was the type of companies that I was looking for my career. Thinking about having an international career or being in a big corporate organization, and I remember quite well that on a certain moment, my quality professor he told me, "Oh, did you already saw Kaizen Institute?" And I said, "Sorry." Kaizen Institute, remember Kaizen from the quality? Yeah, I remember Kaizen, but I never heard about Kaizen Institute, 1997, 1998 in Portugal. They are starting in here. He's a former student from our university. And I went there to listen. But it was at that time in Portugal, a small startup, if we could call it like this, with people like me, same university, same mindsets, same type of thinking, and immediately I felt a fit. Although I have a funny story about this, because when I started, because Kaizen is real place, so we change the things, so we don't produce reports. And I remember I went to a customer. And in the first day that we went to a customer, it was a process. And I was with an older colleague, my mentor, my sensei, my coach. And we were observing a flow of machines that were processing raw material to transform in a final product. And that product had a certain percentage of defects. And we started with the warehouse going river up until the raw material warehouse of finished product to the warehouse of raw material. And we saw all the machines, all the parts of the process. And when coming back, my colleague asked me, did you saw the cause, the root cause of the defect? And I started to say, it might be humidity, it might be the storage conditions, it might be. And he told me, you didn't saw nothing. The root cause is the machine number X doing the cut specific moment. And I thought to myself, this guy is trying to impress me. It's not possible, because he saw the same thing that I see. And after 2 or 3 weeks, so we conducted this workshop. After 2 or 3 weeks, in fact, that was one of the main causes. And I remember that I went back to the university and I said to my teacher, I might not be the best person to be in Kaizen. And said, why? Yeah, because we went to a customer, we saw the same, the process, the entire production process. He asked me about the cause. I said 2 or 3 or 4 different options. He said, no, it is this. And after 2 weeks, it was that, in fact. So I might not be. And he said, no, don't worry, because he followed a structured problem solving in his head. And it started to make sense. So the application of the tools, and your own mindset, the way you see the things, the way you look to the things, the way you understand what is waste, what is adding value, it makes the entire difference when you are seeing and trying to understand any given process, an industrial process, a transactional process, a customer service process. So this is a way that we learn how to see the things, how to interpret the reality that we have in front of our eyes.
It's a bit the metaphor with nowadays when we have projects as well with our clients, that what Masaki was mentioning sometimes, that you have been blind, right?
Yes.
You don't see.
Yes.
And it's just about not having the structure or the tool to go step by step to understand or get to the root cause, to understand what actually is happening with that. So it's just a matter of following the methodology and understanding how to apply it.
Yeah, in my sense, of course, it teaches us, and me particularly, everything or almost everything. And that was a famous sentence, you have been blind. Euros sleeping was another famous sentence. Muda is the Japanese word that means waste. And it was very difficult to go to a customer, to visit a customer at the beginning with Mr. Imai, because he was ruthless. He was straight to the point, and he said everything that you will see here. Very sincere, transparent. And sometimes we were in customers already with a good level, or even multinational companies, and all of a sudden, no flow.
Someone comes and tells you that everything you do is
you're all sleeping, and at the very beginning, that was really interesting. And when I started, I never thought that, although I'm not like the new generations, but at that time, I already had in my mind what I wanted to do and where to go. So I never thought to be so many years in the same company. But the truth is, the amount of knowledge that we acquire, the diversity of organizations that we visit, even the countries and the regions and the persons, that in 1 year you feel like you have been working for 5 years in a standard organization, because you get in contact with inside the same company, different departments,
lot of roles,
different areas, so different problems, and when you are a young engineer, particularly when you are a young engineer, but in any given professions, you start to learn things, and sometimes you move, and sometimes you move in your career, but having the chance to be in so many different customers, doing different products with different ways of doing the thing,
different cultures,
it's amazing the amount of knowledge that we acquired, and looking back to the very beginning, if now I was António, and António was telling to young António that in 25 years you will be in this company being the CEO, I would say no, it's not possible. But yes, I'm here with you, and playing this role now in Kaizen Institute.
I mean, I can say it also from my experience, exactly what you said. Like, sometimes I even look at the amount of different companies that I visited, and sometimes I put it into perspective with some family members I have, some brothers and sisters, and that they stay in one company, and I see like the variety. It's not about the work or how you develop yourself. They also develop, but the broader vision that you have on understanding different processes, different sectors, different types of doing, different cultures, company cultures, and how this affects, and how you are able to adjust your mindset. I guess this had also an influence in your career on how to evolve, not only as a professional but only as a person.
Yes.
And that is also one thing that I wanted to ask you, Antonio. Like you mentioned about Masaki coming, being ruthless in some clients, sometimes even clients maybe feared him when he was coming, and how he influenced you in your life, privately, but also in the professional life.
Privately, I have a very interesting story that I used to tell to young people, to the new people, and sometimes also to the old colleagues. I remember my first meeting with Mr. Imai. I joined the company in 1999, January, middle of January, and on April we had a kind of global meeting, but a global meeting for Europe. And Imai was with us on that meeting, and we had some activities during the day, and then there was a dinner, not informal but not too formal. And before the dinner, I saw the room and the places. We had the names in the places that we should be. And I was looking for where Mr. Imai was seated. I was probably the youngest guy in the room. There were other young people from other countries. We were mainly all European countries at that time. I picked my plate, my name. I went to see where Mr. Imai was, and I put myself on the right side of Mr. Imai, and I moved. I didn't know at the time was I moving, and I was moving one of the European directors at that time, and I sit right beside Mr. Imai, and I remember I took a book with me, and my goal was to have the book signed for myself. And I spent the entire dinner asking him, what about this case study that we have on the book, how it was, and I was taught this, and I thought at the end of the day, I thought, what did I do? He will hate me because we spoke about
him.
We spoke about cases and the entire dinner, and the dinner was supposed to be a different dinner, but no, he had that amazing characteristic. He loved to give, to share the knowledge, and metaphorically he was always getting inspiring situations to drive us to the direction of the things that we should understand and see, without being influenced by the existing paradigms. Because one of the most difficult things in any given organization is sometimes, or most of the times, we cannot see the problems because we are inside the problem. And we see the same thing every day by day, and we cannot see the problem. And the way Imai teaches how to abstract and look to the process and look to the value added and all the things that doesn't add value, they are waste, so we need to eliminate it, brings us to a different approach. And it was a very big influence, because at that time I was starting cases like the one I described, the quality solving problem and others, and that pragmatic approach allowed me, even being a young engineer, to gain the respect of the customers, because I was able to get results. Because the consulting business, traditional consulting business, is all about, or it's a lot about, the color of your hair, sometimes the size of your belly. Today I'm a good example because my belly is big, but this is the traditional approach. And we in Kaizen, we deliver results, we deliver what we promise. So we are what we are able to do to understand the problem and to bring the solution. So we are very pragmatic with the solutions. There are some methodologies that are based on a single approach, and we used to say that we use the tool that better fits or better solves the problem that we are facing. That's why we can speak about operational excellence. That's why we have tools to improve the quality, to improve the productivity, the efficiency, reduce the cost, the level of service. But at the same time, we have tools to improve the sales, to improve the innovation, the time to market of new products. And we have tools to improve the motivation and the involvement of the people. So it's very wide within an organization.
Holistic system.
An holistic system that can be used in any single process, and that's it. So at a professional level, that was the influence. At an individual level, or more a personal level, it was an amazing inspiration, because he was doing something that I really appreciate. So he was traveling around the world, preaching and teaching Kaizen in Gemba, visiting customers, potential customers, in different economical sectors, in different countries, different sizes of companies, but being able to convince, to show an approach, a way to help the organizations to solve their problems. And this was amazing. Difficult at the same time, because I remember I was not married yet, but coming home and starting to explain how we should organize the things at home, and the kitchen, and the fridge, and the fridge. And it was very difficult. No, in here this is not Kaizen. But true is, today, my daughter, and of course this is something from her and not from my influence, she's totally, let's say, Kaizen way in terms of organization, systematic approach, creativity thinking, problem solving, and these type of things. Now we know that we can create, we can teach, we can improve. But at that time, being a young engineer, the university teaches a lot, but doesn't teach us or doesn't show us the real world as it is. So Imai was...
This influence that you mean, for example, on your daughter, is it also based on the environment that she is in? Because she's not your influence. So this living in this kind of culture is something natural, that people starts to behave in that direction, into improving themselves, into looking at the different wastes in their even private life, of what they do, on improving their efficiency. Do you feel it's also like a way of living?
It's definitely a way of living, because when you apply Kaizen to your life and your lifestyle, you will feel the improvements, and you will see the improvements at all levels. So this influence, particularly in the case of my daughter, I think it is because of the context, for sure, because she used to learn to listen when we are at home and speaking about things that we do, and also coming to this type of weeks. Like I said, we have children from 1 year old to, and we have this practice of involving the families in some of the activities, like yesterday, team building events. So I think it was the context for sure, and above all, she saw value using this approach for her personal life, mainly studying, organizing what needs to do when, and the deep of the details or some of the things, and how to organize the time, because time management is fundamental nowadays, because the speed of the access to the information is totally different. The things, the information that you acquire today is totally different than 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago. So this was the main influence of in my life, and probably now I influenced also others, mainly or particularly the ones that are close to me, in this case my family.
So Antonio, one of the last things in terms of your story is also the starting career in consulting in Kaizen Institute, back then in Portugal. You also for sure had senseis, not only from Portugal, but also from other countries. Did you work also with the Japanese at the moment, besides Masaki Imai? Or there were other nationalities involved?
Yes, at the very beginning in Portugal, I started in Portugal since Portugal started as a Kaizen Institute business unit, because Portugal started in January 1st of 1999, so I was the first trainee, and I had the chance to have the best teachers and the best senseis that are still with us in our organization, and you know them quite well. I'm speaking about Euclides and Alberto, and they were the ones that were teaching me on a daily basis, because I saw him in April, and then I saw him in the same year in November by chance, and then 1 year after. So it was not that often that we had the opportunity, because I was traveling around, and we were a small business unit at that time. And at that time, we were taught by mainly by UK, France, and German, and fortunately again for myself and my development, my most important sensei at that time, between 1999 and 2002 more or less, I had the chance to work together and to learn from Charlie Sharman, that you know quite well, and he was also a very big influence in the way that I understood and that I followed the methodology and the holistic vision about Kaizen, and the way to introduce that to the organizations. Also, fortunately, in 2001, so only 2 years after I started, I had the chance to go in the first Kaizen Japan study tour, and in a little bit less than 10 days, it was absolutely overwhelming. So going to Japan, starting at that time, starting with Mr. Imai in the fish market, so it looked like something absolutely chaotic, but everything was organized, standardized, tuna fish arriving, restaurants, companies buying the fish, the pricing, doing the pricing, preparing the fish. So an amazing experience.
And that was like a Kaizen culture from the Japanese culture,
Yes.
or was more like, like let's say kind of a methodology behind, based on the Kaizen that this type of company created.
Okay. So we were understanding it as a methodology, but that was part of the Kaizen culture. Things like today we describe as the Kaizen basics. Things like 5 S's, standard work, visual management that we describe as Kaizen basics. Most of this is part of the Kaizen culture. So when we start in the fish market, it was to understand that, for instance, there was a place for everything, and everything was in its place. And you can see it, in this case, with fishes, and selling fishes, and receiving fishes, and you could see it. And then spending the week visiting different organizations. I never forgot that one day we were in a plant, and all of a sudden I was seeing signs, information in Portuguese language, and I thought, oh, my jet lag is totally is putting me totally or driving me crazy because I'm reading the Portuguese things. No, and it was true, because in that particular city they had some Brazilian people working in, and they had the information in Japanese and also in Portuguese. But at the same time, going to a plant and understanding through visual management where the process started and the final output or the product was being ready to go to the customers, it was absolutely different than what I was used to in the projects in France, in UK, in Germany, in Portugal at that time, even among the best companies. So these initial trainings, being taught by different cultures, different people in different countries, different companies, it was among the best things that happened to my life.
Because I was going to ask, I don't know if what you just mentioned is part of the answer, but when you had your first experiences with the Japanese, what was your first major takeaway of it, that you saw that coming back to Portugal, you said, okay, now I understand fully what this is about. I was doing part of it, methodology, and I had some knowledge, but what at that moment in Japan was something that shocked you and opened your eyes, let's say?
Well, what shocked me was the brutality. We, Western culture people, we are more, we try to go around the things in order to show or to convince, and there it was very, if it was not 0, it was 1. If it was not 1, it was wrong. So the brutality of the way they understood the things and they do the things was what shocked me most. What also shocked me was the adoption of the standards exactly like the standard was, and not how the standard should be. I remember quite well, I was with a group of Spanish people, and we were looking from a balcony, Toyota plant, and we were seeing the assembly of the engine, and we were watching the operators moving and doing the tasks. And my colleagues from Spain, they were saying, oh, this is impossible. If this was in Europe, this was impossible. These guys, they will die soon. They are running. They were not running. They were doing the tasks, the process, almost without waste, almost without muda. And it looked like they were in a hurry, but they were not. They were always adding value.
So kind of normalize this kind of muda.
But this was absolutely brutal for our European or Western culture, or what we were used to, and seeing these activities, of course, mainly at Toyota and assembling operations. This was a big breakthrough. This was unbelievable at that time. I remember these particular people from Spain, we were totally jet lagged, so with 10 hours difference, tired, going from one plant to the other, from one city to the other. So after 1 or 2 or 3 days without sleeping properly, so you start to be nervous and anxious, and the impact is this is not possible. In fact, you have to understand the difference between Kaizen in Japan as a cultural thing in some of the aspects, and Kaizen in the Western world, or the way we perceive it and we understand, and we use it and we implement it in our customers.
So let me go back, as I said at the beginning, about this cultural thing. Because here in Finland, as we mentioned, we are a lot of different cultures, and you are mentioning about these stories in Japan and how you lived the Kaizen methodology and Kaizen culture there. Today we have a lot of different business units in a lot of different countries. How do you see this kind of diversity in terms of application of the methodology? Because of course methodology was built and developed in Japan, then it came of course to Europe, America, and it was taken by other cultures. What is your kind of view on how each culture applies, or the point that how each culture adapts the methodology to their own way of doing? If that is something that you see nowadays in our, for example, in our business, or if you feel that the methodology is preserved and placed same way in each culture, not looking at the cultural differences that we have. How do you see this among us?
At the very beginning, I had a wrong interpretation and a wrong approach about this cultural part, because I thought at the beginning that we needed to change the culture of the organization or in any given organization, and this was what we used to say. So we are here to change the culture, but in fact we are here to change the culture, but to bring CI tools that we sum to the existing culture of the organization. So what we bring? We bring new behaviors that, putting in practice within the company culture, they will generate results. Of course, in some situations, there are things that we need to change, because if we don't change, they don't allow us to move to a different paradigm, because it is the existing paradigms that prevent us to do some things. And to change a paradigm, we need to introduce a new one. So right now, I understand it doesn't matter if it is in Finland, if it is in Poland, if it is in China or in US, in Chile, we are introducing continuous improvement behaviors. And those behaviors, those good behaviors, when you put them in practice in your organization, it doesn't matter the sector that the organization is, you will generate behaviors that will lead to the results. So the most important aspect, it's like if we were speaking about the secret of what we do. The secret is not the tools, because the tools, they are available.
Anyone can find it.
Anywhere. So if you Google it, you go to they are on books, even in other channels. So the secret is how do we put everyone, so everyone within the organization, using the tools everywhere, so in the entire organization, and frequently, every day. So this is the real secret, and we call it the Kaizen change management programs. So, and these change management programs, they don't depend on the cultures. Of course, in some cultures, you struggle more to put daily Kaizen behaviors because they are not used to. In some other cultures, they are used to have daily management tools, but they are not that used to launch value stream projects and involve a multidisciplinary team. Or in other cultures, that they are used to do projects, but they are not used to involve the top management leading these initiatives, or even linking the strategy to the projects and to the daily Kaizen, or the daily management. So now we have a wide understanding of the organizations, and Kaizen is, everyone has a role in the Kaizen approach. The role is quite clear, and it's a participation from bottom up or top down that involves everyone in the organization. And this is what distinguishes from other types of methodologies, is a total involvement methodology within a company.
I like this, what you're mentioning, because it's true that when we go to a specific client and we look at their processes, we try to understand their culture. I'm always referring to not changing the culture, what you just said, but strengthening the culture.
Yes.
Based on what you just mentioned, by looking at the different, let's say, aspects of what they do, and where are they having these little disbalances, or where can we help bring this continuous improvement paradigms or tools and habits. Looking into we're talking about cultures, and one of the things that I think is quite important in our organization is that, as you mentioned, Portugal, France, Germany, in Europe, were one of the first business units that were created that had huge influence based on Masaki Zimai's work and how it was brought. And it's true that in the last years, what we know internally as KIBE, so Kaizen Institute Western Europe, which is a block of countries, business units in countries in the Western Europe have developed very strongly. It's one of the strongest business units that we have. What was the key? Because we're saying that the culture is not really related to it. So what was the key that brought this specific business unit to the next level in the last 20 years, more or less?
Well, the key was strong paradigms. The key was a business model to follow based on strong standards. What do I mean? Kaizen is about changing behaviors, replacing a behavior with another behavior. On the top of that, there are the principles, and the principles, they need to be present. It doesn't matter, again, if we are in China or in US. So the principles that we use, and we define principles almost as an universal truth, they have to be present in every project. I'm speaking about customer first, so create things that impact on the customer, internal customer, external customer, the flow efficiency, the importance of going together to the real place where the reality happens, involving the people, using visual management. So these principles, they need to be there. And then on the top of these principles, we put the change management programs, and we put the tools. Why was Kaizen Institute Western Europe so successful? Because the business model was bringing young people, young talents, and what the young talents or young people have in common: energy, availability to learn, eagerness to succeed, availability to be in different companies, different sectors, and not only, I want to work only in manufacturing, or no, if I can, I will be working in healthcare or in retail. No. So bringing young people in, sharing a lot, sharing the results, and at the same time absorbing all the information, all the trainings, all the opportunities to be in Japan, in other countries, learning from the best internally, and following the standards. So a career path from consultant to partner, sharing the results, because most of the projects were based in the results and not in a fixed fee or a fixed, let's say, deliverable, and the opportunity to be part of the success, having, let's say, equity, variable compensation, bringing young people, balancing with the existent ones, allowed the organization to grow and to grow faster. Because sometimes in a consulting business, the most important thing is to sell. You have sales, you have customers, then you have to find people. The strong paradigm in Western Europe was, because there is a learning curve that takes time, and you know, and I know, so we need to learn these things in order to be capable of doing this at the customers. Introducing a concept or a new paradigm like hiring ahead of the curve. So we bring the people, young people, to have time to train them, to prepare them, and then they were ready when the needs are coming. They are already ready to generate results. So in this business model, sharing the results, variable compensation, diversity of projects, diversity of locations, regions. You started in Spain, you moved to Poland. I don't know if you will move to US, whatever, but you understood that this is a network of business units that we can go from one place to the other. So inside Western Europe, this capacity to serve and to move from country to country, project to project, from being a young professional, learning fast, having a lot of energy to move to different places, this was part of the success. And of course, always with the mindset or the strong paradigm of the learning process. So from the consultant to the partner, there are moments in time of training, sharing cases, sometimes discussing existing cases and bringing another solutions to places where we are improving our customers. This has a dynamic that allowed a company like Western Europe to go from we were 4 in 1999.
That's the point.
To 400 and something in 2024.
But I feel that this part of the training is one of the key points, because it's true that in the last years, like globally already, but it's true that Kaizen Western Europe had a lot of influence on specialization and having experts in different areas, which also added up to be able to train people in a specific methodologies or part of the methodology tools and so on, that gets them to the next level. So it's also as you mentioned, a career path that brings together all the different needs in terms of methodologies from different experts that you have in all different sectors or different tools that make people more available to this knowledge. Plus training makes them grow into those specific, let's say, knowledge tools that they can get from these experts and also from the projects they deliver. So, but I really think that one of the keys of what you mentioned was the training availability and knowledge availability, sharing the different aspects, the different projects, the different results, how we got there, how we achieved that, so that people could understand what's the background on it, what we did, what you said at the beginning, this story with the quality in the machine, like how I managed to see that the issue was in the machine X, in the card, specific card at that moment. So bringing all these kind of knowledge and experiences from the experienced people makes it much easier to bring this kind of structure in your mind in terms of methodology. But in the end, what you are mentioning, Antonio, is that it's not a matter of culture in terms of Portuguese, Spanish, Western Europe culture. In that case, it's a matter of bringing the processes to identifying the needs and bringing the processes to close the gap with those needs, right?
That's it. So on a certain moment, we decided that we needed to speed up the knowledge process, and something that I took 8 years to learn. Nowadays, we can teach the same to a consultant in 2 years. Also because the number of cases, it's much bigger, the number of customers, so the number of times that a consultant is exposed to a similar problem in different organizations. So this Kaizen in Kaizen, if we can call it like that, was the key to the success. So we decided to stop the machines initially once a month, then every 2 weeks, then every week, 1 day per week, to do internal improvements. Internal improvements means to develop ourselves through cases, training, visits, everything that was needed to give more tools, more capabilities to do a better delivery in our customers. And according to the career, we also started to invite the people after 5 years to start to choose specific sectors, because here and there we tend to like more the finance world or the supply chain world or the retail world, and what we did was we invited people to choose, and then we give them means to develop this knowledge, this sector, and of course bringing capacity to travel to different countries, different business units to support in global projects.
Also, what you're mentioning, this kind of sector-based knowledge development, do you feel it's also part of the normal career path of people, as you said, I want to be more in this on that, or it's also a thing that allowed us to kind of, how to call it, specify or adjust the methodology to specific sectors? Because it's true that it's not the same to do a specific method, a specific tool, apply it in a manufacturing side than a retail side. Is it also something that helped us to evolve our methodology towards very specific issues, challenges that specific sectors face?
Yes. Waste is waste. It doesn't matter what process is. So we start by defining what is value added, and what is not value added is waste. And this you can teach everywhere. But then the language of the sector is very important to be able to communicate, and to be able to communicate in such a way that people understand. For instance, when I started in retail, as an example, or one much more concrete, when I started in healthcare, I remember quite well that I went to a meeting with doctors, and I was speaking about bring efficiency to the surgery room. So between a surgery A and the surgery B, in the same surgery room, you have some tasks that you have to perform in order to prepare the next surgery, or to clean the room, to sterilize the materials, to bring the new materials. And I used the example of changing the tires in Formula One. What was the reaction?
This is not my business.
No, I was not accepted. So they thought, oh, no. This Kaizen thing is automotive industry, be successful in the industry. Here we have an hospital. People are not like the machines that you can switch off, do the maintenance, clean it, and switch it on again, and it's improved. We save lives. So this was my first contact with an hospital. in this case, in the surgery room. And okay, we failed. After some months, the same hospital called us back. And some said, oh no, I will not go again because I will not go through the same process of saying, oh no, in here it doesn't work. But we decided to go. And the reception was slightly different because they thought about that. And some of them, they understood the concept. And we ourselves, we started to understand the language. So we have a tool, as you know, that we call SMED, single minute exchange of data. It is to increase the efficiency of any given equipment whenever you change
Between references.
the type of references that you are producing. In a surgery room, we call the SMED first stitch, last incision. Okay?
Okay.
So what do this mean? So you are stitching someone, finishing surgery A, until you are opening
the
next person in another type of surgery. And this is more familiar to them. Okay. It's not about tires. It's not about Formula One. It's not about cars. It's about the process. And what is value added in the process? What is waste? What we can eliminate? What we can do before the surgery? What we can do after the surgery? And it starts to make sense in their mind. So, and this is the reason why, on a certain moment, we decided to go through the verticals of the sectors to better fit the communication. And of course, in some cases, to develop new tools in different sectors.
Or adjust the current ones.
Yes, but the principles are the same. The change management programs are the same. The tools, they can vary.